Hey, this is Stacia, and I'm going to share my round one game from Parma this past Tuesday. So I'm excited to say that I did break 1700 the last time I was at Parma, which was 2 weeks ago. And so I was definitely looking to, well, at least maintain my rating over 1700. Been playing lower rated players though. I am going to speak to the tournament director and ask if he will move me up a little bit to play more 17 and 1800. So we'll see how that goes. But let's have a look at this game. I had a new opponent that I've never faced named Demir. I'm not sure what nationality he is, but he had a pretty thick accent, a grandmaster-like accent. And I asked him his rating, and he told me like low 1700s. Turns out he's actually more like 1650 at the moment. But let's have a look at the game. I had the white pieces, and I played 1 to e4, and he played c5. So I went ahead with d4, the Smith-Morra gambit. He took once. I played c3, and then he declined my gambit with the move d3. Aw, no one wants to take my pawn. Yeah, it probably makes sense. So this is one of the main ways that black can decline it. I feel like the better way is probably the move knight to f6. Because after this, we go into the Alpine Sicilian, known as the C3 Sicilian. And you get something like this. And you know, the positions are pretty equal, so I'm actually going to thoroughly look into this opening and see if I can find a way to create more imbalance in those games. So for the meantime, I actually don't mind this move d3. I just simply take the pawn and play c4. And what we have now is a Maroczy Bind. I think this is the exact position for what they call the Maroczy Bind. So g6 was played. I brought my knight out, and he played g7, bishop g7, and now h3. Okay, so I think this is the first interesting decision I had to make, because one thing I know about this opening is that if you put the knight on f3 too soon and you allow this bishop to pin your knight, generally black turns out to be okay in these lines. Now the computer is saying white still has an edge, so maybe in this exact position that's not true. Actually, I don't see any games with this exact position, so that's pretty interesting. But the idea is that, you know, this bishop doesn't have a lot of good squares. Yes, he has this. This square is awkward because it blocks the pawn. This one's unavailable. This one's unavailable. So if you take away g4 from this bishop, then it kind of cramps the black position some more. So I played the move h3. Now it turns out, though, that this idea is a little bit flawed, because I can play the opening more precisely, and by, first of all, playing f4 here. So before bringing my knight out, I think I can play f4. Am I wrong? Might be wrong. Might have to be sooner. I think it's right here. I actually saw a game by Ben Feingold where he played white. He actually played a Smith-Morra gambit. I couldn't believe it. And he played the move f4 in that game. And this is a line. And I'm going to look more at this. I might play this way in the future. And National Master Michael Joseph, my coach, also said, "Oh, did you play f4?" So apparently that's fairly normal. But he also said that instead of h3, and the computer agrees with this, I could go knight g to e2 and do like the Grunfeld thing, where now if they try to bring their bishop out, I can play the move f3. And that's a desirable move. and I will bring my bishop to e3 and castle and have a very comfortable position. Like after this, the computer already says that white is plus 1.2. So anyway, that's a little opening nuance I wanted to go over fairly quickly. And now in the game I played h3, so let's see what happens. Okay, so knight to f6, that's fairly natural. Here I played fairly quickly. I just want to develop my pieces and castle. So knight out, castle, he castled as well. Bishop to e3 is again normal. I also like h3 to stop the knight from coming to g4 and harassing this bishop. So h3 is a useful move. And a6. Yeah, and here again, like white is better. You know, white has more space. White has more active pieces. Yeah, one last thing I wanted to say about h3. Sorry, coming back to this. But this is interesting. Normally, black does not want to give up their bishop. The computer, for whatever reason, says that this is the best move for black and that black is equal after this. But I don't know who in their right mind would play this way. Like if we continue down the line a little bit, and I would definitely play bishop h6. It says like bishop e6 and yeah, I mean, I'm at a loss. So if any strong players want to comment on this position, I mean, I don't think I'm too worried about black playing this way. Like I've got the two bishops and there's a big hole right here, and I mean position's equal. I guess the point is my pawns really are messed up, and maybe that's an issue, but I feel like white is the one with a practical advantage, even though the computer says it's equal. Okay, anyway, let's go back to where we were. Okay, so after I played bishop to e3, he went a6. And okay, how to proceed? Well, generally I like the plans with queen e2, rook d1. I'm very comfortable in those setups, so I went for that. Computer says queen d2 is a little more accurate. If we play queen d2, we're not really worried about a rook showing up on d8 is one reason. The other reason is bishop h6 might be an idea to trade off black's nice bishop on g7, because that bishop is pretty awesome. Okay, but I like this one because I want to put my rook on d1. He moved his bishop. Notice how the bishop doesn't have any good squares, like I was saying. Rook c1 I played. Yeah, and I played rook c1 in anticipation of this move knight b4 because I want to play bishop b1 and have the bishop be behind my rook and not blocking my rook from coming out. Although generally you can do that and then play a3 and then put the bishop back. Like that happens a lot. Okay, so rook to c8. Now here I felt like I was a little bit better. Computer says I'm plus 2.4. Like what? I'm plus 2.4. So I guess some key moments coming up that I have looked at in detail explain how white can maintain that big advantage. So first a3, obviously, right? Let's kick the knight out. He has to go back. And now I played the move knight to d5. So this is probably my first like think of the game, because we are in the middle game now and it's time for me to come up with a plan. So what should my plan be? Well, I think, you know, we have to watch out for the black counterplay, that's for sure. Like this knight could potentially come to a5. That's definitely an issue. The queen could come to a5, but I wasn't so scared of that. And black can also sometimes play e6 and maybe put the queen on e7 and then go for d5. But if they don't get d5, this pawn will be weak forever. So those are basically the plans I was seeing for black. For me, yeah, I think, that's an excellent place for the knight. If he does take and we take back, that's an improved structure for us. The pawn comes to d5 where it's protected, and the c file opens up. And I think with the queen on d8, it's more likely that white will be the one making use of that c file. Other than that, other plans could include moving this knight and playing f3 or f4 to improve my position that way, and maybe even going for an f5 break. Now, I played this move in the game, and he did take, and we got this, which I think I thought the knight would come to a5. Seems a little more threatening there coming into my weak light squares, but the computer gives a very nice idea in this position. Instead of knight d5, we could play this move, b4. Now, I showed this to my coach, and he actually said it looked risky. But then he quickly noted, like, oh, well, I guess your knight is protected by the rook. So I get what he's saying. If this rook wasn't here, then, watch out, because black would have discoveries and could take my knight. But that is protected. So the move b4, and I've analyzed this now in a bit of detail, this does some awesome things. It takes away that knight a5 resource I was worried about. It takes away queen a5, which means the queen doesn't really have anywhere good to go because it's not coming to b6. And I don't think the queen wants to go here. So, so the queen's awkward. I mean, it's going to end up on e8 or e7, and to do that, they have to play e6 and weaken d6. Okay, you get the point. Black's cramped, and this basically gains space on the queen side and takes away some critical squares. Lastly, taking away this c5 square is important. You can't tell right now, but a lot of times this knight will go to d7 and land on c5. And we have already sort of kiboshed that plan. There probably is the move a5 challenging this, but we would just go b5. And we have even more space. Computer says white is like +3 here. So I really like this move b4. And if you look at a natural continuation, like let's just say that black plays e6. By the way, try to find a move for black here. It's hard to find a move. It's like you can't really do much. I mean, the computer's top move is bishop e6. Like, what? I guess, I don't know what that move is about. I guess attacking c4. But okay, let's play this one because it looks more natural to me. We can simply go rook f to d1. Now the queen should go to e7 probably. And guess what? We can play c5, a pawn break. And this is excellent. We're attacking here. If they push d5, they lose a pawn. If they take, they get skewered. This is just like almost winning for white, this c5 break. So I just wanted to point that out. Thought it was very interesting. So that was the best way forward. I found this move, which is fine. I still have an advantage. Takes, takes. And now knight e5 was probably a slight mistake. Let's call it an inaccuracy. I don't think I should take the knight. If I take the knight, I think he could just take here. And I'm not sure about f4 here because, well, first of all, there's bishop b5. So got to watch out for that. I could play bishop d3, I suppose. But then takes, takes. And I lose a pawn. The queen was guarding there. So yeah. So taking the knight leads to counterplay. And actually is worse for us. So I played the move knight d4, which I thought was a really good move. The idea is that I'm going to play f4. and that knight is trapped. So that's kind of nice. So he's got to deal with that, and that's sort of awkward to deal with. So he traded rooks in the game and played bishop to c8. Okay, so once again, I wasn't sure how to proceed. I did play f4. It's kind of screaming to be played, but I think a better way forward is to, again, play this move b4. The idea is that we want to play f4, but we're handing the move to black, and it's not clear how black should play. Knight d7 doesn't lead to knight c5 anymore. We've just covered it. And that was the resource that black has after I go f4. So, you know, what does black do? I'm not sure what they should do, to be honest. I mean, this move looks kind of silly because if you put the bishop on b7, it's just like staring at a pawn. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, computer's giving like queen e8 or rook e8. I guess queen e8 at least has an idea. We're going to come and attack this pawn. But here, I can go queen d2. And maybe this is going to come in. And if queen to a4, computer likes the move rook to c3. It's pretty interesting. So I guess we're going to double on the c file. And white has a strong advantage here. Okay, but back in the game, I actually did play f4. So now the knight coming to d7 is a little stronger because he's going to come to c5. And I think if I try b4 now, it's not as good because, well, let's see. Why is it not as good now? Computer gives knight to f6. So I guess that move comes with tempo. White still has an advantage there too. Yeah, I guess the point is that black made more useful moves. Not really though. Okay. All right, not claiming I understand chess that good. But these are definitely ideas we can use in our game. So in the actual game, I played knight to f3. I didn't know what to do in this position. I guess I should go queen e1, the computer says, or queen c4, which is an idea I find later. But I played here because I thought, hey, let's trade off this strong bishop. He went queen a5, so yeah, had I played b4 earlier, I could have prevented this queen a5 move. Okay, I did play here, and he played knight to f6. He probably should take my bishop. And then, maybe like queen b6. And I would have to defend the knight and defend the b pawn. So I guess this. And the game would continue. But instead, he played knight to f6. Which looks a little awkward, but okay, he wants to preserve his bishop. And I played queen to c4. Okay, so I actually was thinking about, invading. And if he takes, I'll get a rook to c7. So that was kind of my plan. So bishop d7, and I did invade. And he did take. And then he instantly played the move rook to c8. So, okay. I looked at this. I was getting a little low on time. There are definitely some tactics here. If I try to take the knight so that I can take here, I don't have any time. He will take my rook. If I try to grab a pawn, there's rook c1 check, forking the bishop and the king. So I didn't like that. And I did end up taking the rook. So it went into this position. Now, it turns out, though, that rook takes b7 is correct. And if you want to pause your video and see if you can figure out why, go ahead and do so now. Okay, and I kind of want to see if I can remember too. So I'm going to go through my thought process here. Okay, so obviously there should be rook c1 check. Okay, I'll go king h2 and he'll take on b1. So rook takes b1. Now in that position, we can take on f6, right? So removing the defender of the bishop on d7. So I would take. Now there, if bishop takes f6, and rook takes d7, I think there's rook takes b2. And I'm not sure about that position. So if we rewind a little bit, I think instead of rook takes d7, I believe we have the very strong move e5. And e5 would attack that bishop. Yeah, and I'm confusing myself. So I think that's the line, but I can't clearly see why that's so good. So let's go ahead and put it on the board. Rook c1, king h2, and take a bishop. Okay, now here I thought we should take the knight. That is correct. We take the knight. If we try to trap the knight with this move, I think this doesn't work as well because of knight takes d5. That's a free pawn. So I don't think I like that. So we have to take, that also removes the defender of the bishop. And I was thinking he should take with the bishop. And then, well, yeah, we just simply take here. We just take this. So this other move actually isn't correct. I see now this is wrong because of bishop b5. So that saves a bishop. I take here. He takes back. And then it says I should go rook b8 check. I guess just to keep the king from easily coming into the game. And then I would expect to attack a pawn. Yeah, computer says rook b6. Let's attack that. And this is equal, apparently. So, yeah, instead of after the bishop takes, we should just take this. Now, they do win the b pawn, and now we can play rook d8 check, king g7, and now e5 is the winning move. Oh, okay, I get it. So, wow. See, this calculation is probably just a little too deep for me to figure this out. There was too many, like, branches in there for me to, especially in a G30 game. But I'm not certain I would find this in a slow game either. I don't think I could at my level, so. But that bishop is trapped, so we're going to win it. Check it out. The bishop's trapped. So we have to throw in this check. Force the king to g7. That's the key move. Taking away g7 from the bishop. So, but that does lead me to say, like, well, earlier there was e takes f6 instead of bishop takes f6. Yeah, there's this move. Computer says this is also really good. And I have no idea why. So let's try to figure it out. Okay, if I was black, I would take a pawn. And now it says rook takes d6 is like winning. Why? Why is this winning? Let's say bishop h6, attacking here. King g3 defends it. And now rook to e2. attacking a pawn. E5, but it's defended by the knight. I guess this pawn is just too awesome. That must be why we're winning. So that was the key moment of the game, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some grandmasters didn't see this. So I asked my coach, National Master Michael Jolson, since he's 2200 strength, you know, would he see that? Now, when Rook C8 came on the board, he immediately said, so take it, right? Like, he didn't look any further than that. But when I prompted him, his response was, yeah, I think I would go into this. But he basically said, because it's an imbalance and it introduces some complications, and he didn't necessarily see that we had a winning idea, but then when I prompted him and said it can win, he found that idea. So actually probably if he's 2200 and he can calculate that, then he had to be prompted though. Then I suppose others can as well, and maybe I should work on my calculations some more. Okay, but that was the last key moment of the game, so I will just show you the rest of the game. We had this position. I brought my king up, and unfortunately, I blundered this pawn. Okay, I blundered a pawn. So I think I was, you know, maybe better with winning chances. Now I'm losing with drawing chances. And of course, I was in time pressure. I think I had 2 minutes at this point. But I am a little proud of myself because after blundering the pawn, I did buckle down and I managed to hold this ending. I couldn't really figure out exactly how this went, but I can tell you that all the pawns got traded off eventually, and we were left just with our same colored bishops. My king was more active than his, and I won a pawn back that way, and then it was a drawn game. So I did manage to hold the draw, so this is round 1, and I'll be back to share the other 2 games, and let's see if I can gain more rating points this tournament. I already know, but you guys don't know yet. So okay, this is Stacia, and I'll be back with more chess. Okay, bye.